What's the dumbest name for one?
What is
Like,
the most
like someone found it and just named it the stupidest thing.
probably the dumbest dinosaur name is these aren't considered to be valid species anymore, but for a
Ah.
time there were dinosaurs that were named things like Scrotum humanum, and there was very recently a dinosaur proposed called Urinator. Oh, hello, Kitty. What's your question?
So what's changed the dinosaurs from having a roar to more of a freaky like sound?
Um, well, there's not really been a ton of research into dinosaur sound. A lot of the stuff you see on social media is just created by people um, who aren't super like well researched in paleontology. We haven't found many dinosaur specimens that we can get any sort of knowledge of sound out of them. However, what has
So that
oh
so that sound is like fake, the really freaky sound where it goes like ooh or
oh
something.
the okay, wait, I'm gonna play it for you. I think
The really really freaky one.
where it's like
Yeah, and like it like gurgles or something.
yeah,
It's
that's
like weird.
yeah, so that's the mating call of a bird called a common loon.
Oh,
But it's slowed down and pitched down. And common loons are dinosaurs. So dinosaurs definitely made weird noises. I think the main thing is that um, people kind of have opened the window of acceptable sound design for dinosaurs because, you know, in the 80s and 90s, it was kind of unthinkable for a giant monster to do anything other than roar. And so a lot of the dinosaurs made those kind of mammal like roaring sounds, which were kind of unlikely. But it is definitely more plausible for dinosaurs to make more bird-like and more alligator-like noises. And alligators chirp just like birds do, and so probably a lot of dinosaurs could chirp. And bigger birds and therefore bigger dinosaurs and big reptiles all do these sort of hisses and grunts that are pretty common across probably pretty common across dinosaurs. But they certainly did probably have a lot of range. This is a lot of conjecture because it's basically all based in looking at living animals because we just don't have a lot of fossils to go off of that tell us anything about the sounds they could have made. But yeah,
if there's only bones, right, and a few fossils, is there really no possibility of there being like a Jurassic Park?
yeah. Unfortunately, we can't really do Jurassic Park because DNA only sticks around for maybe 10,000 years in any recognizable form. Sometimes it goes for 30,000, but it's very fragmentary. And dinosaurs are many, many millions of years old. And so getting any DNA from those fossils, especially because the actual original tissue and material is gone, it's been what's called permineralized, where groundwater flows through and carries chemicals with it that replace the original material with like stones and that sort of thing. There's basically nothing left that you can get DNA from.
Hmm. What else? Do we have any other behavioral like facts outside of like the basic things like oh they ate this,
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
did this?
So there's a theropod trackway. Theropods are the big two-legged meat-eating dinosaurs. There's a theropod trackway that I had up here. I don't know where it just went. Okay, there is a theropod trackway that shows what's called lekking behavior. Um, Lekking is when in birds is when a bunch of like birds get together in a group and they form like a big circle and they dig these little display arenas. And there is evidence of dinosaurs doing that too. So you know how when birds are in the mating season, the males will all
Oh.
go around and they'll start doing dances and stuff. There was a lot of evidence of theropod dinosaurs doing similar things. We don't know exactly what species of dinosaur was doing this because it's just footprints, but we do know that it was within theropods, and birds are also theropods. So if we look at that from a bracketing approach, we can say that that behavior of like ritualistic mating evolved relatively early within the dinosaurs.
Hmm. And I forgot the name, but I have a favorite one with the like the medieval weapon that's like a ball with spikes.
Yeah, the Ankylosaurus.
Yeah, I like those. Can you talk about them?
Yeah, ankylosaurs are super cool. Um, they're from Ankylosaurus specifically is from a place in the Midwest called Hell Creek. Where
That's not a fitting name.
no, it's where T Rex and Triceratops are also from. Um, so they all lived together. A lot of the popular dinosaurs didn't coexist, but Ankylosaurus, T Rex, and Triceratops are all very popular, and they did live at the same time in the same place. One thing that's super interesting about Ankylosaurus is that it actually has a piece of bone that slides over its eye when its eyelids close. Um,
Oh, like the fishes?
yeah. Except in Ankylosaurus, it's not just a piece of tissue that covers it; it's solid, actual bone, and that seems to be the case for a lot of the and that seems to be the case for a lot of the scales on Ankylosaurus's body. Is that instead of being made of keratin, which is usually what scales are made out of, they're made out of bone and keratin, which makes them what are called osteoderms. And that's actually what we use to determine if dinosaurs are related to Ankylosaurus, because only Ankylosaurus and its relatives, which are called the thyreophorans, have those osteoderms on their skin. So Stegosaurus, for example, also has osteoderms. Those big plates that are up on Stegosaurus's back are a kind of osteoderm, and that means that Ankylosaurus and Stegosaurus are both in Thyreophora.
Hmm. How do you get this much information?
I spend
Like, how many years?
I spend a lot of my time learning about dinosaurs. I read a lot of papers. I spend a lot of time talking to people about dinosaurs, and when I come to a point where there's something I don't know, I look it up. And sometimes when there's something I don't know and there's no answer for it, I ask around and see if there are any fossils that I could look at to get an answer for it. Um,
Something that I have had to remind myself of quite a few times is this is a little bit more getting into like advanced stuff, but if you're ever reading a paper and you're curious about it or you want to know more about whatever it's about, reach out to someone who worked on the paper and they will almost always, I think, at least from what I've heard, be
yeah,
willing to talk to you about it because chances are they are very passionate about it and happy to talk about it
yeah.
more.
Scientists love to talk about their research. If you find
Oh, there's two of you.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah, my
yeah.
roommate is here
I've
also.
mostly been talking in chat.
Yeah, that's the person who's in.
Why are your voices so eerily familiar?
We're both like the same age and we live
Yeah,
in the same place.
yeah.
um,
It's like identical. I couldn't
Well,
differentiate at all.
sounds like I need to get to work on voice training.
yeah. Anyway, uh, but yeah, no. Scientists love to talk about their research. You can reach out to
Oh,
a
is it
scientist.
true that scientists are like I don't mean no offense, but I heard they're really easy to contact because they're really small. They're like small groups.
Um, I don't know what you mean by small groups. Like there are certainly big like institutions that all work on research together. But in terms of like actual paper authorship, there will only be, in most cases, a few scientists working on a paper, which means like a few scientists working on the same experiment at the same time.
Mm.
Um,
Who would you say is like I'm not into basketball, but I'm gonna use a basketball analogy. Who's like a big basketball player?
LeBron
Who's
James.
like yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Who's the LeBron James of dinosaurs? Like scientist wise.
Shoot.
That's
That's a great question. Um,
There are a lot of really good ones.
Robert
Because
Back.
all I hear is that they're like really humble, down to earth guys you could see at your local college.
There's a few
Robert Backer's
paleontologists
pretty
who
good.
are so famous for their research that they're like actual celebrities. Paul Sereno is probably one of the ones that I would think of. He's a paleontologist who is like so popular that you can't really reach out to him on an academic level. You have to like get in line because there are so many people who want to talk to him.
Wasn't Phil Sereno like Time Magazine's most attractive person of
Yeah,
the year
Paul
one year?
Paul Sereno was also Time Magazine's, or not Time Magazine's. He was People
Oh, People
Magazine's
Magazine.
most attractive man of the year one year. He is really hot. Um, but he's a
Thank you
paleontologist
for
who
that fact.
yeah who works on Spinosaurus and a lot of African dinosaurs. He's currently based out of Chicago, and he's incredibly well known. His research is everywhere. He worked on like so many of the dinosaur species that a lot of people like know a lot about. Um, if you name a dinosaur, though, chances are it was probably discovered by Edward Drinker Cope or Othniel Charles Marsh. They weren't great people by any means. Paul Sereno is
That's
in
a
a
little bit of
Oh yeah.
yeah
One question. One
yeah.
question.
Go ahead.
Is there anything like you know how every single thing has like an underbelly or
Oh yeah.
something? Is there any for dinosaurs?
Oh,
Is there any
absolutely.
illegal business?
This is actually probably one of the reasons that I got into paleontology is because I'm Dinna and I care a lot about like indigenous land rights. Because
Oh.
there's a lot of stuff about that. But in the past, like there's been a ton of fossils that are just taken without permission, or in some situations, researchers will exploit like existing treaty conditions because a lot of those treaties were written with the goal of like exploiting indigenous people, and this is just about the U.S. But they only give us access to like the top 5 feet of the dirt, and so people can come in there and drill for oil completely legally because the federal government would own everything under those 5 feet of dirt. So we only have sovereignty over the top little bit of dirt on our land. Um, and so there is a lot of that within basically all sciences, but also with paleontology. And it's gotten better in the last few years, but there's still people who are shady about it. Not necessarily big researchers, but people also steal fossils. That's another one. This is more in Mongolia and South America, and Morocco. There's a lot of people who will go to active dig sites and they'll just steal the fossils and run away with them. They won't take all of them. They'll just take the stuff they can sell. So like skulls, hands, teeth, anything that looks cool in like a glass case or a shop window, and they'll take them. And so fossil theft is a big thing as well.
If there's if there's so many like fossil theft, what is the chance that you walk into some random store and like the actual fossils there are real?
Um, the
What
chance
are the chances?
chance that they're actually what they're advertising is low. Pretty much anything that looks sharp is
It's like
called like a T-Rex tooth or a dinosaur tooth. And anything.
so only high end stores.
Yeah, I mean, usually what it is um, the big expensive fossils, they just get put up for auction suddenly by someone who's really wealthy, who already owned it. So like they just kind of appear. They're getting auctioned off, and they were never known about by museums. They're just these really exquisite specimens that just kind of appear. I've seen real fossils in stores in Morocco and Jordan, but in the U.S. it's a little bit more difficult. Most of the fossils that I've seen in the U.S. Aren't necessarily poached. The U.S., like I said, just has kind of poor laws for land regulation. So it is you can get fossils like semi legally in the U.S. I don't think it's legal to buy and sell fossils in the U.S., but it is legal to take them. So
Do
it's like
you
a black
think
market.
do you think like all the theft and like secretly like hiding that they found something and then randomly selling, do you think that's like stopping the research of like dinosaurs from like progressing?
Totally, yeah. So there's a ton of really complete specimens that we just can't know a lot about because of theft, or related incidents like that. For example, there was a Stegosaurus that was found a little while ago, that's called Apex right now, that was held just away by private collectors for a long, long time. And it is only now beginning to be researched. But the thing is, because it was taken out of the ground
An
by
apex?
yeah, the Apex is the name of the skeleton. It has like a nickname. We give nicknames to a lot of our specimens. There's the dinosaur in the back.
Like the new one that from the movie? Isn't that one called Apex too?
Maybe, I don't know.
Isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Please continue.
Um, yeah. So like There is a lot of issue with research trying to get like done on private collections. Sometimes they get donated to museums, sometimes they get loaned to museums. But there are fossils that are really, really awesome and are stuck in private ownership.
Mm.
There's a house, I think it's in Hollywood, right? I think it's in Hollywood, LA. And there's an Allosaurus skeleton that's basically complete, and it's just built into the house. So it's like mounted to the walls of the house, and it's owned by a private collector. And I would love to go in there and research that specimen, but unfortunately, like with all these poached specimens that weren't collected by paleontologists, they don't have what we call metadata. We can't know where they're from, when they were dug up, what the rock chemistry is like, all the conditions that would affect what we can learn about them. And so even when they do come back to us, we can't really gain a lot of information from them, like how old they are or anything like that, because
Oh, so they're kind of just dropped at your door, and you're like, okay.
yeah, because like when we go out into the field and we find a fossil, we don't just record information about that fossil. We know what it was like in situ. We know where it sat in relation to the other fossils at that site, how deep it was in the rock, what the rock around it is made out of, the conditions of its exposure. We know if it was exposed to rain or not before it was dug up. All that stuff is very meticulously recorded.
What's like, okay, imagine the perfect fossil, like perfect, absolutely perfect. What would have to be the conditions to get such a perfect fossil?
An animal would have to die in a environment where there is very little oxygen. So it would have to be probably what we call
Like in a burrow?
not in a burrow, because burrows still get oxygen exchange with the air, and there's still organisms living in the soil that the burrow is made out of. Think more like the bottom of a swamp, where the water is still, so oxygen doesn't get moved into the water by anything other than diffusion. Stuff has a hard time living at the bottom of a swamp because fish and things still need to breathe oxygen. It's just that oxygen gets like trapped in the water when bubbles get pushed in. So a fast flowing river has a lot of oxygen in it, but a still sitting lake or swamp has almost none. And so that slows down the rate at which like organisms can break down a skeleton. Now, if that is a perfect 0% oxygen lake, the animal gets dropped in there, boom. It's not necessarily going to fossilize, because then what has to happen is you need to get a bunch of silt, very, very, the smallest grain size possible, silt, like SILT, like very fine grained sand. Anything, the smaller the grain size, the better. Fossils get preserved better when the ground around them is very finely grained, as opposed to like big grains. Like if you just put a bunch of rocks on a body, it's not going to fossilize because.
So like sand.
Yeah, but even smaller grains, much, much smaller than sand. And then that silt goes on, and then it's sealed in there. It'll sit for several million years, and then a groundwater has to come in, and that groundwater will flow through after that fossil has been stabilized and kept there, and then that groundwater will replace the parts of the body of that animal with a different mineral than the rock surrounding it. So let's say the rock around that animal compresses into sedimentary rock. The groundwater that comes through will maybe replace it with some kind of calcite rock or something like that, something very stable. It would have to be a very stable rock. Traditionally, the things that the most coveted type of fossil is opal, not because it's particularly stable or easy to research, but because it's shiny. We occasionally get opal fossils. There hasn't ever been an opal dinosaur found, but there is an opal crab.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, but so some kind of very stable rock will be carried through by the groundwater, and then it'll interact with the the organic chemicals in the body of this animal, and it'll replace them, and then basically most of that animal will now be rock. The parts of its bone that were already mineral will stay the same, but the parts of its bone that were organic, like the marrow and the rest of its skeleton, and its soft tissue. So this is the super.
Oh yeah.
It's not just
We'll never
preserved here. There are very few cases, and this would be one of them, that the flesh and muscle of the animal is going to preserve. Now, usually
Oh, so that's possible.
it is very possible, yeah. So there are a few species,
Muscle.
yeah, there are a few species of dinosaur that have preserved flesh, soft tissue, muscle because they died generally in the bottom of low oxygen lakes, like
Yeah.
Psittacosaurus.
If you said you like ankylosaurs, if you
Yeah,
like ankylosaurs, I highly recommend checking out the Boreala pelta fossil.
yeah,
It's super well preserved. It's one of the best preserved fossils I know of, at least.
yeah.
It is an ankylosaur, and it is pretty in pretty good condition.
Yeah, it's only one side of it. It's the so this is an animal that fell into some kind of body of water. But ankylosaurs don't weigh the same on the top and bottom, and so it floated in the body of water, and the bottom part of it got completely destroyed. But the skull and everything else that wasn't exposed to whatever was in that water eating it,
Oh,
remained.
so he died.
And so we have skin from it. It's very well preserved skin. In China, there are also a lot of during the Cretaceous of China, there were a lot of lakes that had low oxygen, and so birds, which are dinosaurs, and non-bird dinosaurs as well. There are some pretty big dinosaurs that fell into those low oxygen lakes, like Eutyrannus, and they drowned, and they are preserved with not just bone but skin that is so well preserved that we can look at it with a microscope and tell
Of course.
the composition of the cells in that skin and the shape of their organelles, what color they were.
So there's no way we can grab that and like use it for something.
What do you mean?
I keep wanting the possibility of it to come back.
Oh yeah.
There's
Well,
no way.
no. It's all like it's not molecularly the same.
Mm.
There are cells that look like those dinosaur cells, but it would be like trying to clone a person from a really good drawing of them. Because it's not the actual original material. It's just a very similar replacement of it.
Then, in your opinion, what's like? I don't want to sound mean because all dinosaurs are cool. Is there
The
like
worst dinosaur is Psittacosaurus.
I don't know. I don't care. Imagine. Okay, I don't know how to compare it, but is there one that's like so common? Oh, like Pokemon. Is there one that's so common that you're like, okay, but is there like a really rare one?
Yeah.
Is there anything like that?
The Tachysaurus and Coelophysis are both super common.
We
They're the
have,
most.
like-
We have over 1,000 Coelophysis specimens because it was so everywhere.
Yeah, well, Isn't there the Ghost Ranch formation?
Yeah,
where
the
there's, like, a
Ghost
ton
Ranch
of them?
alone has over 1,000 Coelophysis specimens, and Psittacosaurus is found. There's many species of it, but Psittacosaurus is found all over China and Mongolia and Russia. In terms of the rarest dinosaurs, like the Holy Grail,
Like a Charizard, like the glittery one. I don't care. I just want to know.
Charizard of dinosaurs.
the shiny Charizard of dinosaurs. That's a really good question. It would, in terms of usually, I mean, I would
At
assume,
least the one that hasn't been poached that we know of.
yeah, the shiny, the super rare dinosaur, the one that you would be most excited to find, is a new one. So I can't really, comment on that.
I mean, okay, if you find a new one, but it's just like a really similar one to a one that's already found, you're gonna be like, okay,
Okay,
that's
so I know
nothing.
exactly. I know exactly what this would be. The shiny Charizard of dinosaurs would either be a new species of Celeosaurid or a new species related to Jacapele, because those are two already known dinosaurs that are exceptionally rare, and they have no known close relatives. They're like
Oh.
the Tuatara, so we don't know what they evolved from. We don't know if they're the last of their evolutionary lineage. We know that they are dinosaurs, but they don't really have anything that traces them along an evolutionary line to anything other than the earliest dinosaurs. Jacapele is super bizarre. We know it's kind of related to ankylosaurs, but we don't know, where exactly it sits in the ankylosaur tree, or even if it's that much of an ankylosaur at all. It might be like right outside of it. And Coeleosaurus, or not Coeleosaurus, Coeleosaurus. Um, yeah, Chilesaurus is like this really really bizarre one of a kind dinosaur from Chile. That
Oh, because it's in the name.
Yeah, it's a late Jurassic dinosaur, but it looks the most like the earliest dinosaurs ever. So it's like 100 million years younger than the thing that looks the most like it. And we're not sure if it just evolved that body plan again, like how
Oh.
some sharks look similar to early fish that they didn't evolve from, but they just were doing similar things, so their bodies look similar. Or how sharks and dolphins have a very similar body shape because they need to be efficient for swimming. We don't know if that's what's happening here, or if there were some early dinosaurs that survived for almost 100 million years longer than they should have. Um,
Is there any that are like mm, actually no, I'm not gonna ask that because you already answered that. Um, I had two questions but I lost it. Let me think, please.
okay,
Uh,
all right. I will probably end the stream soon. By the way,
I will.
yeah.
What's the dumbest name for one?
When is
Like,
the
like someone found it and just named it the stupidest thing.
Probably the dumbest dinosaur name is, well, there was a proposed. These aren't considered to be valid species anymore. They got knocked out by more recent studies, and so no one actually uses these names scientifically. But for a time, there were dinosaurs that were named things like Scrotum humanum, which means human testicles in
They
Latin.
allowed that. There's
Yeah,
no rules to prevent that.
there are rules now. That was in like the early 1900s.
Oh.
And there was very recently a dinosaur proposed called Urinator. I know the guy. I know the guy who tried to name
Oh, that's
Urinator.
great.
Yeah, I know the guy who tried to name Urinator. The fossils were exposed because someone went for a bathroom break, peed on a rock, and then it was sandstone, and so the rock washed away, and there was a dinosaur foot underneath it.
That's so funny.
I mean, it suits it, but still.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Urinator is not considered to be valid species. It's been reassigned to be Silurus. So
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
bye bye.
Have a good time. You're very smart. I'll never be that smart because I don't have time for that. Bye bye. Thank you for your passion.
Thank you so much.